Welcome to the Greenwich Sentinel's video news. I'm Taylor Knight. Over the next hour here on GCTV, we will have the latest news stories, sports coverage, and interviews with the people who make Greenwich great.
We learn now that in Greenwich, a lot of business is actually conducted at the grocery store. As the Greenwich Sentinel welcomes State Representative Livy Florin, who represents Greenwich's 149th district.
I'm Taylor Knight for the Greenwich Sentinel here with State Representative Livy Florin. Thanks for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Taylor.
So we'll get started. You are in your 8th term right now. Why do you enjoy serving the people of Stamford and Greenwich so much?
Well, it's a challenge. Every day is new and different. It's like going to college on a daily basis. You learn something new, and I love the people, I love the process, and the relationships that I've built over the last 16 years. It's fun.
Great, and I see you everywhere in the community. I feel like you're here and there all the time.
Ubiquitous.
Why do you feel that that's important?
Well, I think that's how you learn what's needed. You listen to your constituents, and I guess they call it retail politics. I just call it being a part of the community and knowing the people I serve. And you learn a lot in the grocery store.
What are some examples
Between
of things
the
you learned?
produce and the frozen food, I mean, I can get enough ideas to keep me busy for a whole year proposing legislation.
That's great. And now, can you share maybe some of those ideas that you've gotten while out in the community?
Well, one that I just worked on that I hope we're going to take care of, a gentleman had been having long-term care insurance that he'd been paying for like 30 years, and every year it kept getting more and more expensive, and people wanted to buy out his policy. Well, he wanted it for long-term care. So last year we passed a law saying if the insurance companies were going to increase the premiums, they had to spread it over 3 years, couldn't be more than 20%, right? So what do? It's a loophole. They've been raising them 19% for 3 years. So he brought it to my attention, had a public hearing in the insurance committee the other day, and we're going to get it fixed.
Great. And
It's
that's
great. That
just
was one
from
thing.
being out in the community.
Another thing was the traffic problem in Glenville. Somebody in the grocery store told me years ago that we needed a traffic light on the corner of Weaver Street. Well, that only took 10 years, but we got it.
You got it, finally.
Yeah.
And now, speaking of transportation, what's your opinion on the transportation lockbox?
I support it 100%. We have a lockbox now that we put in legislatively. Well, the problem with it is you can open it with a hairpin. It has just got all kinds of holes in it. So the governor, and I totally support him in this, feels that a constitutional amendment will make it a long-term, inviolable lockbox that can be opened. Now, the problem with that is you've got to be very sure what you're putting in, because that's the only way around it. If people change the revenue streams that are dedicated to transportation, what are you going to lock up? You've got nothing to lock up. So anyway, I think it'll go through. The Senate passed it unanimously,
Okay.
and the House lost just by a few votes. So I hope we get the 3/4 in both houses, because then basically it will go on the ballot in November, and then the voters can decide. And I think it will be overwhelmingly approved by the electorate. I really do. If we communicate it well enough so people understand it.
Great. Now, maybe switching gears a little bit. You're a woman in politics. Can you tell me about that experience, maybe?
Well, I never really thought about it. Women, men, whatever, gender. I do think that the Citizens Election Program, our campaign finance law, has attracted more women to the process, which is good. I've noticed we have more women colleagues. I do think that women tend to collaborate more. They don't have this I've got to be the toughest guy in the room mentality, and that's not casting aspersions, but I think we just tend to have a different way of looking at things, and we're more willing to compromise. And the way I look at it, compromise, the root word is promise. And as long as there is promise, you're going to get things done.
Great. And how do you think you've grown in all these terms that you've endured?
That or maybe.
No.
I've learned more. And I've certainly met a lot more people than I ever thought I would ever know. And I've learned a lot more than I did in college and 2 graduate schools. So, I have an MBA, and I did all the coursework for a master's in education. And having reared 4 children, I thought I'd seen it all. Well, I hadn't. So it's been an education, and I love it.
And if people want to contact you, if they don't see you in the grocery store, how can they do that if they have issues?
Just go on a website.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Well, thank you so much. This was State Representative Livy Florin for the Greenwich Sentinel. I'm Taylor Knight.
A new kind of charity work is alive and well in Greenwich, as we heard from Joe Calico when we talked with him at the Coscob Firehouse.
Joe Calico is a Greenwich resident and a founder and the president of the Needs Clearinghouse. I spoke with him about the nonprofit organization and its role in the community.
We were founded in 2013. The two founders were myself and Fred Camillo. Fred helped me a lot the first year in order to meet people. I was pretty new to town. The Needs Clearinghouse concept came about. I had helped the Nathaniel Witherall obtain a $22 million certificate of need from the state of Connecticut so they could do their Project Renew. And they had remembered that when they ran into difficulty raising money for an Alzheimer's music program. So they needed $13,500 for a year program. They had gone to United Way, who helps them in many other respects, but just did not have the money for this project. They went back a second time and again were turned down. So I was bemoaning the situation, talking with a friend of mine who owns a pharmacy. He said, "How much?" I said, $13,500. He says, "I can do that," and he wrote a check. The light bulb went off, and the light bulb moment was that, hey, wait a minute, there are a lot of people out there who have the wherewithal and or are very generous, and they just don't even know about some of the needs in the community. So the idea was to form a clearinghouse, which on the one hand would identify the needs of charities, and later we evolved to individuals as well, and then try to link them up with individuals and businesses, and now, in fact, other charities as well, that had the wherewithal to help with a particular problem. So that's how the Needs Clearinghouse came about.
Great.
I try to keep a list on our website. We have about 100 accomplishments or so that we recorded, but maybe 3 or 4 or 5 will jump out at me as being the really big ones. There was a little boy who was from Norwalk. He had something called CFC, cardiofacial. Return to quarters. Anyway, so there was this little boy who had this cardiofacial syndrome, CFS, I think it is. It's very painful, and it's some problem with blood going to the heart and lungs, and it's usually fatal. He's 6 years old, in a lot of pain all the time. They needed $1,500 to go down to a conference in Florida where the world's experts were on that subject. Dr. Noonan, they named Noonan's disease after her, so she's very famous. He met a lot of peers, made a lot of friends. I sent them down there through the Needs Clearinghouse. I just got an email from his mother that he's doing well, and they thoroughly, completely, remember that experience, and it was great. They hooked up with a lot of folks. So that was one really important to me. Another one was a little boy came over from India, blind in both eyes. He had unsuccessful cornea transplant surgery in the past. They needed $8,500 for the surgery. I spoke with the surgeon. He agreed to take $3,000. Chicken Joe Marini and I got together. We raised the money for that surgery. And there were other people that helped too, folks at Planet Pizza, all people throughout the town. And he had the surgery in August, and he can see. So it's amazing. Another really big moment was a little girl who can't talk. And she has cerebral palsy, and she goes to the Disability Resource Network in Bridgeport every day. We learned that an iPad could give her the gift of speech. She could have it programmed, and she could touch certain of the icons and say, "Hello, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Needs Clearinghouse, I need to go to the bathroom." Whatever it was, the machine would talk and very easy to program for her mom. And she has a set of icons now where she has speech through the iPad. So, I mean, there are so many like that. We feed about 700 people a month with pizza. I know it's a small thing, pizza, but we get a break from Planet Pizza. We just wrote them a check for $1,200, and we're paying half price. So we just bought about $2,400 worth of pizza that people look forward to every month at the Bridgeport Rescue Mission, at Kids in Crisis, all throughout the community. And I guess the last thing I would say on accomplishments, again, there are so many, but one that really stands out is the vision project we have. We learned that Mercy Learning Center, where 870 women are enrolled, ages teenage through 90s. They're trying to better themselves. And it turns out that a fair number of them have a problem with vision, which was holding them back. So the Student Nurses Association of Connecticut partnered with us. They will do pre-screening. We then have lined up doctors who will give them free eye exams and free glasses for anyone who needs it. And these people don't have insurance, so this is really a big deal. And we've extended the program to another learning institution up there. We're helping about 1,000 women up in Bridgeport. And the Greenwich Social Services, DSS, we've extended the program down here through Cone Optical in Stamford, and women, well, not only women, but men, women, and children who have a need for glasses down here are referred by DSS, and we send them there for free.
Great.
So there's just an example. It's exhilarating when you have a success. We were just talking before about a young 7-year-old who needs a whole bunch of stuff since she has muscular dystrophy. And we've just raised the money. We'll give her the check in the next week or so. And it's exhilarating to think that we're trying to get her set on a path to where someday she may be able to walk. And right now, she's in peril. Her life's in peril. She fills up with fluids, goes to the hospital on an emergent basis, and they just try to keep her alive. But she did a little video on News 12, and the only thing she wants is a puppy. But it keeps you going, yeah, and makes you want to do more. It does. It's amazing. If there's a need in Bridgeport or Fairfield or Norwalk, most of the people I know happen to be here in Greenwich, and they step right up to the plate. In fact, last weekend I received an award with Senator Blumenthal and Mayor Ganim for African Black History Month and for what things that we had each done to help the community up there. But in large measure, it belongs to the people of Greenwich who helped me help them. And so that's an ongoing thing where we work between different communities. And for Norwalk, they had a need to have a turkey dinner at Thanksgiving. Chicken Joe and I got together and fed 400 people. So it's a great feeling when you have these successful projects. You can visit our website, www.theneedsclearinghouse, all one word, .org. And we have a PayPal button. They can help. They can send a check to the charity. And one interesting thing about this charity is that we're not a big box charity. We don't have offices that we pay for. I work out of my bedroom. We don't have salaries. My salary is zero. We have no overhead for all intents and purposes, just some minor things. And when you make a donation, it's nice to know that 100 cents of the dollar you're contributing go toward the project that you're interested in supporting. So we take pride in keeping it all volunteer.
We all see police officers helping out every day, but rarely do we get to see them helping bartend and serve food. But that was just the case when we caught up with them raising money for kids in crisis.
Members of the Greenwich Police Department and Silver Shield Association traded their normal uniforms for a t-shirt, jeans, and bottle opener, all in support of kids in crisis.
We had to do something to try to help make a difference for the kids.
The Greenwich Silver Shield Association stepped up to become waiters and bartenders at Sundown Saloon, and all of their tips will go to kids in crisis.
This means a lot to us. It's great to see the community come together. It is very, very impressive to see the Silver Shield Association come behind our kids and support them.
In September of last year, the Connecticut Department of Children and Families eliminated $750,000 in funding for the nonprofit, who has been based in Cos Cob for 37 years.
For the police department, we work with kids in crisis on a daily basis. We unfortunately have the responsibility to respond to difficult situations where kids are facing challenges that they can't deal with on their own.
They do turn to us quite often. Whenever they find a child in need, they will come over to us, or they will bring them over, or they will connect us with that family whenever needed.
Tips for kids also included a 50-50 raffle, prizes, and t-shirt sales to help raise funds for kids in crisis. Reporting for the Greenwich Sentinel, I'm Taylor Knight.
It may be our ego talking now, but no one knows Greenwich sports better than Greenwich Sentinel sports editor Paul Silverfarb. Judge for yourself as he chats with Taylor Knight about the winter recap.
I'm sitting here with Paul Silverfarb, our sports editor for the Greenwich Sentinel. Thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me here.
So, crazy winter season.
Oh, you could say that again.
We'll start off with Greenwich High School. We'll start off with the gymnastics team. I mean, they did incredible.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, they were very, very, very talented. They definitely were on a mission. And they brought home their first FCAC title in 82, 83, somewhere around there, and backed that up 2 weeks later with a state championship appearance and a state championship title. Went to the Opens, took second place against a very good Woodstock Academy, or either Worcester Academy or Woodstock Academy. Mm-hmm. Very good team. And on Saturday, they're going to be representing Connecticut in the New England tournament. So,
where's that?
Gosh, about 10, 15 minutes south of Nashua, New Hampshire.
Oh.
It's in Massachusetts. Dockhead or something like that.
Not around here.
No, it's around the place where everybody calls it Worcester, even though it's spelled Worcester. So I don't even want to try. Trust me, I went to school in New Hampshire. I know better.
And what players, athletes really stuck out to you from the gymnastics team?
Gosh, there were a bunch of them. I mean, the obvious one is, and I apologize about the name, Andres De Jesus.
Okay.
She was, I mean, we were talking lights out. She was fantastic all year. She won the all-around for both the L championship and the FCAC championship. I mean, wow. She took care of the competition. I mean, I was at the FCAC championship game, a championship meet, and she was the last one to go on during the floor exercise. And the entire gym at Jonathan Law just kind of stopped and watched her perform her routine, her floor exercise. And, I mean, we're talking every minute. There might have been a couple of people that were still finishing up one of the other exercises, but everybody kind of just stopped to watch her perform.
She stole the show.
Literally stole the show. She did a great job and backed it up with another solid performance at L's, and then another solid performance at the Opens. So she's had a great year, and looking for good things for her. At New England's, Kelsey Fedorko had another fantastic season. She came in, her improvement throughout the year was just amazing, just a great job. And she's backed it up with, we're talking incredibly solid performances at FCX and the L meet. Jessica Freitag, another solid season. I mean, she was consistent all the way through from the beginning of the season to where they are right now. So that's fantastic. And since I have two twins at home, I can't not mention Aisling and Brock Fiona.
It's a twin thing.
Yeah, exactly. Got to respect all the twins out there. They had a great season as well, and yeah, life is good in the land of GHS gymnastics.
Great, and you mentioned New England's. We have another team sending some people to who sent people
Sent,
to New England.
yeah.
Indoor track team.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they had a great season as well. I mean, they had a lot of. I mean, you could tell throughout the season they were gearing up for the FCX stuff like that. And then when FCX came through, I mean, the amount of performances they had that were outstanding were just amazing. I mean, you have obviously Emily Philippides, who took care of the 600 meter, and Coach Evan Dubin was saying that when I talked to him that he wasn't really sure what event Emily was going to do. Kind of threw her in an event, so let's try the 600, and might I say that was that was one of the greatest choices he could do. I mean, that was fantastic. So, and she competed at New England's as well and won the state. I think she won the state 600 champions. So,
That's great.
yeah, that was fantastic for her. Isaac Floyd.
Did he say school record? Is that what I heard?
Yes, that's school record.
In what?
Long
Jump or high jump? We'll figure it out.
Figure it out. I think it's the long jump. I think it's the long jump.
Okay.
It's the long jump. And did a great job with that. Set a school record and kind of came into the event. I mean, he's kind of been getting better. And when I was talking to Coach Dubin, better and better each week. And then kind of at FCX just exploded on the scene. And all of a sudden, wow, medal. It's like, nice. And then Saphir Scott, same kind of thing. Had another great performance in the high jump. Great job by him. Another one of those that was kind of consistently jumping high to begin with, and then all of a sudden it's at FCX, kind of took it to another level, and has been doing a great job since that. They have, I'm trying to think who else had. I mean, there were a lot of. Emily had a great meet. Emily Philippides. There was a girls pole vaulter for Greenwich, and I apologize, I'm blanking the name. She took the pole vault championship at the FCAC meet. So, I mean, they had a lot of fantastic finishes this year, and I mean, they're going to hopefully carry this right over to the spring season, which, I mean, starts any second now.
Soon.
Yeah.
It already feels like it
I
outside.
know. Tell me about it.
Now, unfortunately, the boys basketball team lost to Weaver last night.
Yes, they did.
But
for them, listen, they had a great season. For them, they had a great season. I mean, they started the season really well. Then they kind of hit a road bump along the way. And it's not like they were getting blown. I mean, they were losing. They lost to the number one team in the FCAC Danbury by the last second shot with like 5 seconds to go.
So they're not getting blown out.
No, they were.
Keeping with it.
They kept close to a lot of the teams. I mean, there was a bunch of losses they lost in the final seconds, and you're kind of like, okay, this has to end. This really does have to end soon. And it's funny because what they did against Stanford in the first round of first round of states, where Connor Harkin, who is just filthy out there. I mean, he was just amazing. Just unloaded a 25-foot jumper, ball game in overtime, and they get the victory now and get to celebrate while they got to see, I think three teams do the same to them. So it was kind of, so it's good for them that they got that. And obviously it's good for them when you can advance in the state level too. I mean, they missed out on the FCX, not by much though. It was definitely good. I mean, they took care of, at the time, previously unbeaten in the FCX Trumbull. Beat them pretty good.
And what about next year? What are you thinking for them?
Well, Connor's back, so anything's possible. Yeah, exactly. Just watch out from behind the arc. I mean, it's gonna be raining threes. It should be a good season. I mean, every year they've kind of improved a little bit more, so there's no reason to think that they won't be doing the same thing next year. I mean, I think that they have what it takes to get a very good run at an FCAC appearance, which would be a great step for them. Kind of get back to where they have been. Coach Bram a couple of years ago had them going to the FCX, and then they went to the state semifinals, stuff like that. They're well on their way there again. Pat Heaton's doing a great job with the program, and should be fun.
Great. Now we'll switch over to girls hoops. I mean, we have to obviously talk about Abby Wolf.
Who? One of the best players in Connecticut, and probably one of the best basketball players from the Greenwich High girls program that I've seen. a long time. I mean, she's just dominant under the basket, and both offensively and defensively, which is great. And I mean, and there's stuff that you don't really talk about a lot in basketball. The free throws. She was against Ward in the quarterfinal game. I mean, it was automatic. She was automatic from the foul line, and that kind of stuff was great because Fairfield Ward was starting to make a run. And her ability to go underneath, to be a presence underneath, get fouled, and make the foul shots is one of those things you don't really get to see a lot. You don't see a lot of in the columns and the scoring columns, and people care about the rebounds and the blocks and the points. But her ability to shoot the foul shots, I thought, was fantastic, as well as the team too. I mean, they went 21 for 25 or something like that in the second half, which is I mean that's outstanding. I mean they've had a great year. I mean, Abby's
fell short in the FCX a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, Ridgefield's a tough team. Ridgefield's a very tough team, and they they fell a little short there, but on a different note, they really weren't expected to get to where they are right now. They weren't supposed to beat Ward. They were supposed to maybe keep it close against Southington. And for people that follow Greenwich on a daily basis, they know that Greenwich is a very talented team, whether it's Caroline Benneville or Kim Kokemeister hitting going behind the arc, or Emily Anderson joining Abby underneath, making a big presence under there, and their passing abilities. And they're a quick team. They're back and forth quite a bit. They could wear a lot of teams out. I think that's what happened with Southington in that game that I saw them up there. They kind of just... Southington made a run. Greenwich was able to kind of hold them off, but I think their athleticism kind of just wore down Southington, and I think maybe kind of did the same against Fairfield. Now Fairfield Ward, I think, was a little off as well. I mean, their shots just weren't falling. You kind of felt bad for them, but at the same time, I mean, Greenwich's shots were falling, and they were able to. Their transition game was fantastic, and we have a semifinal appearance against E.O. Smith, who is the team that Greenwich played in Coach Chris Hernandez' first season in the state tournament with Greenwich. They went to E.O. Smith, which is, I mean, we're talking, it's on the UConn campus basically, and it's a hike. And Greenwich went up there. I think they were like the number 24 seed. E.O. Smith was, I think, 9 or something like that. This was Abby's first year. Abby and Caroline Benneville, both seniors on the team, their first year, and they were freshmen, and I mean, they weren't supposed to hang with them at all. And the game was 44-39, and it could have gone either way until the final minutes. You kind of saw something special happening, and here they are now. The seniors get to play the same team they entered the tournament with, but this time they're playing at Mohegan Sun the next game. I mean, whoever wins this game is going to Mohegan Sun for a championship. So
exciting.
It's going to be very exciting for them, and that game will be in Wallingford, nice neutral site for both, and a lot of traveling on my car has a lot of miles on it now.
So now we'll move on to a team that they're expected to win at this point, swimming and diving.
Yeah. Well, when you have won 45 FCX in 46 seasons, saying you're supposed to win is a very safe assumption. But the thing is, Terry Lowe's team does it every year, and they do it whether they have those stellar athletes, whether they have very good athletes, but a lot of depth, they find ways to come out victorious. And I was working in Greenwich the one year, the 45 out of 46, that one year that they lost. Yep, I was there.
What was that like?
It was interesting.
Shut down for a day?
Yeah, tell me about it. Everybody was crying. It wasn't as... It was kind of interesting because the team kind of went away. They wanted to win. Obviously, you want to win. I mean, that's everybody's goal, to win. And they wanted to win. But they kind of said, okay, this happened. Let's get our revenge at the state level. Let's win states. Let's win opens. And let's not let this happen again. So they were upset. Of course they were upset about it. The seniors that were on the team didn't want to be that first team since forever to lose an FCA. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's still more swimming to be played, or more meets to take place, and stuff like that. And I kind of think whether they use the depth or whether they don't, and they have those athletes, they find a way to get it done. could be on the diving board, it could be in the relays, it could be in. I mean, they find a way, and this year they've been doing that.
It's been working.
Yes.
Now we'll go to the hockey team.
Hockey, yes,
They've been exciting.
yes, they have FCX champions. That was a long time coming from them. They did that in I think 2008, 2009 season, maybe somewhere around there. I think they did it again. They've been close a couple of times. Last year they were very close. Last year was very close, and every one of the boys that I talked to on the team said they did not want to feel that feeling they had last year watching Darien hoisting the FCX championship trophy. And then to make it even worse, it's the same Darien team they lost to in the state finals, 1-0 in overtime. I mean, you can't get any closer than that. And you knew this year had the chance to have something special. The players were there, whether it's a Colin Kelly, whether it's a Casey Cunningham, whether it's the Mosian brothers, there are so many people, even like Owen Johnson. There's a lot of Nick Bizzuto in goal. I mean, there's a lot of the talent that was there from that team that had the juniors that were on the team last year, and they kind of were like, we don't want to have this again, and we're not going to do this again. And they were a very motivated team. I mean, you saw that in the first game of the season when they traveled up to Wesleyan and beat Wesleyan University. I mean, Wesleyan. Let's try this again. Yeah, let's try this again. Beat Xavier, which is actually the number 1 seeded team in the Class Division I tournament. So you saw that there was something special there, and then they ran the table till they came up against a very tough Darien team. Lost in the tournament. I mean, lost in the regular season, but came back and beat them later on in the season. So you could see the writing was there that this team is something special. And then go into FCX and look what happens. I mean, they get the goals when they needed. Nick comes up with the big saves when they needed. They go to the FCX.
He didn't let any goals in.
No, he pitched a shutout in the tournament, which is impressive. Right. And then you go into the FCX championship game and you take care of a team that you lost to. And they admit that this was probably one of the lowest points of their season when they lost to St. Joe's. They didn't come off the bus when they got up to Shelton, and they lost, I think, 3-0 or something like that. They all said that was just a poorly played game. And you kind of felt bad for St. Joe's because they upset Darien 2-1 or something like that in the FCX semis, and they come into the finals against a team that is A, out for revenge on them, and B, a team that is motivated to get to the championship and win the thing. You kind of felt bad, and I mean, they took care of business almost. It was a pretty even game until 9 seconds to go when Greenwich lit the lamp, and at that point you're like, you don't let up a goal like that with 9 seconds to go in the first period. And then from there, it was game on.
And Coach Bob Russell said, FCX, that's a big deal down here.
Yeah.
Conference play isn't really, that big of a deal elsewhere. Why is it such a big deal down here?
Conference? Because there's so many talented teams in the FCX. There's so many skilled teams, so many talented people. It was... whether it's Greenwich, whether it's Wilton, whether it's Darien, whether it's New Canaan, whether it's Fairfield. Fairfield's having a great season. Trumbull is improving. St. Joe's is an FCX finalist and beat Greenwich in the regular. There's so much talent that's down. Richfield, I can't forget Richfield. Richfield, even Norwalk McMahon team is improving. They made the Division III tournaments, stuff like that. So there's a lot of talent that is in this conference where you see teams like and around this area, like Southern State, like Hamden. And look what Hamden did to Northwest Catholic. Mm-hmm. Northwest Catholic was number 4. I think Hamden was 13 or something like that. And Hamden blew them out 5-2 or something like that. So there's a lot of talent down here. And Hamden beat Greenwich in the regular season. So you knew that Hamden's a good team. Right. So there's a lot of parity in the state. And Greenwich beat the number 1 team. Darien beat Greenwich when the Greenwich was number 1. So there's so much parity and stuff like that now we're in the final 8 of the state tournament for Division 1. Any team could beat anybody at any given time at this point. Now You could pick any one of these 8 teams, and no one would look at you going, "Are you crazy?" I mean, because that's how good this is. On Greenwich's side, Greenwich is very talented, and I think this is another one, just like kind of with St. Joe's. You don't want to, it's a revenge game.
Right. You don't want to lose this one.
And then after that, the revenge game is, then they could ride that all the way to the whale, hopefully. So it'll be a fun tournament.
Definitely fun. And now, last Greenwich team, the wrestling team.
Yeah, wrestling had a great season as well. They had a new coach, Domenico, so many names that I have to remember. It's amazing. And he, the team did really well. The team did well. They didn't get the numbers and stuff like that they were hoping for in the FCX and in the States. But I mean, like CC had a great performance. Menchaca had a great performance throughout FCX and the Class Double Ls. So they had the talent there. This next year is going to be very interesting to see what happens with the team. See if how they're going to not rebuild, but how they're going to improve on this year's team. And kind of now, the coach it's his second season with the team. He knows what to expect. It's his first time competing in the FCAC. I mean, and FCAC wrestling is probably one of the toughest in the States. Whether it's Fairfield Ward, Fairfield Ludlow, Trumbull, obviously Danbury. I mean, there is a lot of talent in the FCAC, and it can be very eye-opening for a coach for competing in this conference for the first time. So now he kind of saw the level of competition, and now it's time to kind of see what happens. Yeah, see what happens.
Now into a team that Greenwich lost to in the Town Crown, the Brunswick wrestling team.
Wow, yeah, they had that's just, you can't even say it's a great season. I mean, that's a wonderful season. I mean, They undefeated regular season. Then you go into the FAAs, you cruise through FAAs. Then you go into the NEPSAC, New England.
Western New England.
Yeah, the Western New Englands. You go there, you take that. Then you get third in New England's period. I mean, they had a great season. They weren't winning. They had their close matches, but they were taking care of business. Like, they really were. Like, there were matches where the other team was shut out. Like, they actually had other teams weren't able to get a point off them. Wow. Which was impressive. I mean, and they took care of whether it was Trinity Pauling, whether it was Greenwich, whether it was Greenwich High, whether it was Greens Farm Academy or Rye Country Day School or any of the teams that are up north. It seemed like they were always ready for the competition, and you feel bad for them because they were not able to have the BIT, the Brunswick Invitational Tournament, which is their one tournament a year that they get to host, and I think they have 10, 12 teams there, something like that. And I mean, it's a full day, 6 mats or 5 mats on the ground, wrestling all day, and it's their third or fourth out of 5 years, something like that, that's been canceled due to weather. Snow. Yeah. So you feel bad, but at the other hand, I mean, they hosted Greenwich High School this year, and that turned out very well for Brunswick. And I mean, you can't mention, Brunswick wrestling without John Erico's performance. I mean, he was just dominant all year throughout the season. Goes into the FAAs, just as dominant. Gets the most valuable player in Western New England. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it was just a fantastic season for him. You got Lucas Bell, another great season for him as well. You have their heavyweight, which I will remember, Joe Fairville. He had a great season as well. I mean, you had a lot of these athletes that just really stood out, whether the Hennessy brothers or whether it was, there's just a lot of great athletes that were on that team. And when I was talking to Coach Tim Ostry, we were kind of talking about he was telling me how it seemed like the numbers for wrestling in general for the private schools were kind of been taking a hit, where there's not as many athletes coming out for teams, but yet Brunswick, who has built such a good program, they don't have that problem. Which is great for them, and it shows the quality of work that he's been doing, that Tim's been doing with the program to keep it kind of running. But not just running, but running at the lower levels, which is only better for the varsity team because it just everybody comes right up through the program, and they get to see on a daily basis. They get to see the winners. They get to see this. We could do what they're doing, and it's kind of it's fantastic what they're doing at the school there.
That's great. And now we'll move on to Wick hockey.
They had a great season, and they got to play in the Elite Eight tournament for New England, which is something they have never done. They came very close last year, very close last year, and they were the ninth ranked team. So they ended up playing the large team tournament, and had an unfortunate loss there. Regrouped this year. I mean, they were playing lights out throughout the season. They had a couple of hiccups midway through the season, but nothing too bad, and they had a great season. They played Avon, and I haven't seen a team. I mean, Avon's they're number one for a reason. I mean, they're really good. They have a lot of talented players, and Avon could shoot the puck really well, really fast, and their defense was just lights out. So Brunswick Hockey was playing them as number 8 seed up at Avon. I went to that game, and the score was 9-2. It didn't look as, looking at the score, you're kind of like, ugh. But they played well. They played Brunswick hockey. The seniors on the team should have nothing to be ashamed about. They had a great season, and it's not like they played and they just never got off the bus at Avon. I mean, they played well. The problem is they played a team that on that day was just better. Mm-hmm. So it's been a kind of a progression for the team. They wanted to qualify for the goals always qualify for the Elite Eight. Mm-hmm. So they could have been the top seed in the large tournament again, and maybe have gone farther. But
it's not the goal.
No, you want to be they're a day school, so it's not like Avon has these kids that are so they're competing against teams that like Avon and stuff like that like Gunnery and stuff like that. I mean, these are big time programs, and they're able to hang with them, and not even able to hang with them, able to beat some of them, and it's fantastic what they're doing, and it's kind of a progression. They made the large school tournament last year. This year they made the Elite Eight. Let's see what happens next year. Maybe we won't make the Elite Eight. We'll make the Elite Eight and then win a couple of games, stuff like that. So it's kind of like progress, and they have to realize that even though they lost in the first round game, they still had a great season, and it's still wonderful for the program what they did. So hats off to athletic director and head coach Ron Van Bell, because they did it was a great season.
Great. And now squash, national champions.
2 national champions. We have squash from GA and squash from Brunswick. Both won on the same day. And it's exciting because you don't really get a lot of national not really a lot of national championships around. And to have one team from Brunswick and then the other team from GA win, and both teams doing it in grand fashion. I mean, Brunswick got to the national championship, and we're playing Haverford mm-hmm. out of Philly, the Philly area, and it was the team that beat them last year for the national championship. And they were telling me that it was pretty much a hometown crowd. Like the crowd that was in there was
because it was.
It basically was a home crowd. Yeah, it was in Philly, and the amount of people that were there, kind of rooting against Brunswick, but they came in there and they were a determined group. They won where they needed to win, and we're talking a lot of epic matches, and before you know it, all of a sudden, they win 4-3. They're national championships. They're a national champion now. So that was fantastic. The GA girls played the same team that they played last year, mm-hmm. which I am completely blanking on. Beat them 5-2 in the championship game. There, kind of had a little easier of a time mm-hmm. at the championship, but still was top North Forward, maybe something like that. North, something like that. But they played them for the national championship, and they were able to come out with a victory. And Yeah, it was nice. It was good for both programs. I mean, both programs worked so hard throughout the season. I mean, they've been so strong. So to kind of take that and then to go to a national championship, and to not only go to the national championship, cruise through a couple rounds, and then go to a championship match in the national championships and come out with a victory is a kind of special moment. It doesn't really happen where two teams from the same town are national champions, the best in the world. I mean, in the
great.
country, and yeah.
Good for Greenwich.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Greenwich should be very proud.
And then Greenwich Academy basketball.
They made it to the FAAs, which was fantastic. And they didn't even make it to the FAAs. They made it and then won their first round game at home, which was wonderful. They went up to Greens Farm Academy for the semis, and unfortunately were defeated. But again, kind of like we were talking about before with progress. I mean, the team, Coach Wes Matthews has done a fantastic job with his program and kind of turned it around from a program that hasn't seen a lot of success recently. And all of a sudden last year they win a couple more games. Then this year, let's try to win a couple more games. And they win a couple more games, and they would do enough to not only qualify for the FAAs for the first time, and I don't know, can't remember when.
A long time?
Long time, long time, to not only qualify but to get a home match or a home game at GA, which was fantastic for them. So they were able to win in front of their kind of home crowd, and that kind of stuff does wonders for a program because now everybody could see. They hear about the success that the program has, but now they see it because they were able to go to the game. They were able to see the team do well at home in a playoff atmosphere and advance. So I think good things are coming from them as well. I think that team is definitely going to be on the rise, and they're going to be looking next year maybe to do a little more than just compete at the semifinals. Maybe, who knows, get to a championship game.
Absolutely. So
Possible.
Congrats to all the teams so far this year. Good luck to all the teams still competing. You can read game recaps in next week's Greenwich Sentinel paper that'll come out on Friday, or at www.greenwichsentinel.com. Again, this is Paul Silverfarb, our sports editor, and I'm Taylor Knight. We would like to thank Greenwich Community Television for their dedication to the community and for allowing us to share our content with you. And be sure to check the Greenwich Sentinel and greenwichsentinel.com for the latest news, sports, and events happening around town.